to Education, Leadership, and Beyond, Surviving and Thriving. My name is Andrew Murata, host of the show, and a warm welcome to our audience here. Happy holidays. We are just a couple weeks away from the holidays and certainly New Year's, Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever you are celebrating. My best to you and your family. And thanks for tuning in for the podcast today. We're a proud member of the Education Podcast Network, Voice Ed Radio Canada. And wherever you're taking in your podcast, jump in, leave us a positive comment and a review, and jump in today and leave us a positive comment. We are going to speak to William D. Parker from Tulsa, Oklahoma. William is everything leadership. He's a writer. He's a speaker. He was a former executive director, former assistant principal of the year, teacher of the year, all these things. He's done so much. He's also a writer, a lot of books under his belt here. Here is his latest, written with Connected Ed. So whose permission are you waiting for? I'm curious to hear the answer, Will, there. And we will meet Will in a moment. And I'd like to start with a word from our sponsor, IXL. We're at the midterms. We're at halfway of the school year. Those assessments, where are the kids at? Where did they start? Where are they going to? IXL is a great tool that gives you excellent results for that. Here's a word from IXL.
I'd like to thank IXL for sponsoring today's podcast. Over 1 million teachers use IXL in their classroom every day. IXL is the most widely used online learning and teaching platform K through 12. It empowers schools with complete curriculum, thousands of instructional resources, robust reporting, assessment data, and more. It saves teachers a lot of valuable time with ready-made plans aligned to the standards and the textbooks. Built-in engagement tools like custom competitions make learning fun for students. And IXL's diagnostic is research proven to be a strong predictor of performance on standardized assessments. And the best part? Everything I just mentioned is all integrated into one platform, so you can simplify your EdTech tools. Visit IXL.com to lead your students towards data-driven excellence today. The link is in the show notes, and again, appreciate IXL sponsoring today's podcast.
All right, let's get rolling, friends. We're going to meet Will Parker in a moment. And I had an opening concept. I had something I was going to talk about, but I was inspired and I was moved after reading about half of Will's book here. Whose permission are you waiting for? And he starts like a great speaker with a story. And he says, let me take you on a walk. And he talks about his parents. Beautiful story there, Will, is his dad and mom and what they meant to him. And he lost his dad suddenly there, lost his dad earlier. And eventually he had lost his mom too. But he talked about his mom saying that it's a seed, right? Our body's just a shell, but it's a seed that we can plant in others. And that had a profound impact on Will and his leadership mission. So here, a couple of weeks before New Year's, my challenge to you in honor of Will's mom, what's the seed that you're going to plant in somebody else? Is it a project for your own, something that you want to do, a seed that can grow into something for you professionally or personally? Is it a seed in your organization that you're going to start this project or start this thing that's going to build momentum? Or is it in serving our people? Is it in the people that we work with and things that can help them on their journey? So think about that seed and then take action to help make it grow, right? With our apple. Where's my apple here? I always have my prop here. Here's my apple for the day, right? There's about 5 seeds in this apple, Will. There's about 5 in here, right? And we can count the seeds in the apple, but we cannot count the number of apples that are going to come from those seeds. So in honor of Will's mom there, plant those seeds in others, friends. Enough of me chatting. Here he is from Tulsa, Oklahoma. Will, welcome to the program.
Andrew Murata. You know, you're just bringing back so many great memories because I got to see you in upstate New York whenever I was up there with you for the Sanies conference this fall. But I got to tell you a quick story.
There we are.
So yeah, there we are. Yeah, we were hanging out together, man. And the fall colors are just so gorgeous.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
beautiful, beautiful time. So when I was like 15 years old, I don't think I've ever told you this. My dad, we lived on a farm in West Tennessee. That's where I grew up before I moved to Oklahoma to become an educator and go to college. But when I was like 15, my dad re-enlisted in the Navy to finish his retirement years, and they stationed him in Brooklyn. And so he took the family, and
Oh,
we moved to Long Island. Well, he had to commute in every day. But I was so nervous about moving from small town West Tennessee to New York that the very first week or so, I didn't even speak out loud. Like, we'd go to stores or we'd go out in public and I wouldn't talk. And I remember we were heading into this grocery with my brother, and I was so nervous. I was like, I don't even want to go in the store. It just reminds me of what it felt like to be a middle schooler. And so I stood outside waiting for him in the cold. And this guy walks up to me and he's like, "Hey, do you have the time?" This is before anybody carried a phone. And I had a watch on and so I didn't even tell him what time it was. I just held it up so he could read it. So he could read my watch. And so whenever I'm talking to you, Andrew, I'm just like, it goes back in time. I'm like, oh, I'm back with my friend from New York. It reminds me of how nervous I was when I came to the wonderful state of New York. But I've gotten a little bit over that nervousness over the last couple of decades. But man, what a fun time to be with you.
yeah, it was the Saney's conference there.
Yeah.
Will, so did you go to high school in
Yeah,
Long
I
Island?
went to high school in East Meadow,
Wow.
and then Dad got stationed back to Virginia Beach. So
Okay.
I finished a year and a half there, and then we moved back to Tennessee.
Oh,
For my senior year, I got to graduate from the school where I had grown up, and
okay.
then I came to Oklahoma to go to college, and so this is where I've had my career and my family, and so teacher to assistant principal to principal, and then, like you said, state executive, and now I full-time consult leaders. But you've been out here too, because you came out to Oklahoma. Was it last year or the year before, and did one of the conferences here for our state principals association? So, yeah, we keep
Yeah.
trading places, my friend.
Yeah. Shout out to Chris LeGrand, but it was through
Yeah.
your recommendation. It was through your connection there,
Our
and
good
certainly
buddy
your work
Chris.
there,
Yeah.
which we're going to get into. But Will, let's go back to the opening concept. Let's talk. That mom, that seed. You're
Yeah.
doing a lot of work inspiring people, whether it's speaking, writing, or working directly with people. Talk to me about how important it is to plant that seed in others. And what is your goal in 2026? Do you have a specific group or a person that you're going to focus on?
Yeah, Andrew, if you had known me as a boy before the New York years in rural West Tennessee, my mom and dad both grew up in a small town. Neither went to college. My father didn't finish high school. He got his GED when he was in the Navy. But they were just deeply committed to learning, and they loved us. And in the little school that we went to in rural Springville, which was the name of the little K-12 school we went to before high school, I didn't realize at the time that just about every kid in my school was probably Title I. And I didn't know what Title I was until I became a teacher. But when I was looking back at that time in my life after I became an educator, I was actually talking to one of my daughters on the way to school one day. She was at my school when I was a principal. And I was just kind of thinking out loud, like, how do you tell your story about where you've grown without it sounding like you're trying to hold yourself up or be arrogant about your achievements? And she said, "Well, Dad, that won't be a problem if you remember the people who take the credit for getting you where you are. And that's your parents. Those are your teachers. Maybe they're your pastors. Maybe they're whatever mentors there are in your life." And my mother is definitely one of those, Andrew, who just deeply invested in every one of her kids and her grandkids. And you told that story already so beautifully that, as she got into her older years in her 80s, she would just look at me and say, "Will, this body is just a seed and it's going to get planted, but it's the time and the care that you put into other people where you're going to grow something that stays long after you're gone." And I can still remember after Mom's parting, because she and Dad died within the same year. And so that first holiday without your parents is a hard time. But, as hard as I thought it was going to be, the comfort was looking around at the faces of all of those kids and grandkids, 14 grandkids, 6
Wow.
great grandchildren, all my brothers and sisters, and being able to just see in each of them the reflection of my parents and the commitments that they had made. But the same thing is true for any leader listening. every single day when you show up and you are being there for kids, you're being there for teachers, you're being there for your community, you're making investments in the lives of people that who will never forget it. I like to say two truths. And the first is usually sounds unkind, which is you're not as important as you think you are. Someday your school will exist without you. People will forget who you are. You'll be a picture hanging on a wall, and somebody will walk right by it and not remember you. So stay humble. But the second truth is just as important. You are way more important than you think you are, because the moment that you're in, you have the opportunity to influence a child or a teacher or a community member in a way that maybe will help them, motivate them to do something they never thought was possible without you being in their lives. And Andrew, we know that's true because that's what teachers did for us. And that's what principals did for us. That's what our coaches did for us. They spoke things to us and about us that we never thought possible. My 8th grade English teacher, Rita Owen, pulled me aside one day. I'll never forget. And she said, "Will, you've become a really good writer. Maybe next year when you go to high school, you should take the advanced track in language arts." And I remember thinking, no one's ever told me I'm a good writer. She had no idea, Andrew, that we were going to be writing books someday, or that I would teach high school English. So little did she know that one little moment in my life inspired me way beyond that one little moment. And so this little moment you and I have right now has the potential to do the same.
Well said there. Well, I forgot what a great storyteller you are. The stories are in the book, but even now you've already told several stories.
Yeah.
Listen with that West Tennessee voice there. I love it.
We're a storytelling family. And when I go home, part of our fun times together is either one, playing music, because I love to play the guitar, piano, or the mandolin, and then my brothers and sisters singing together, or we sit around in circles and just tell stories. And but when you're telling stories in family, your version and their version is never the same. So you always got to argue over whose version's true.
Yeah. Will, you mentioned New York, and it was great to see you. Shout out to Saini's there. Yeah. And you had a great presentation, the books, you were there. And you're consulting full time now. Principal Matters. His website's in the show notes. William D. Parker. But William, how do you prepare for such an event, right? You have a time slot, you have specific subjects. We have a little wiggle room with our time here, but those were tight times. Yeah. How do you prepare when you're going to a conference, whether you're the keynote or you have a couple sessions in there? What does that look like for you in your preparation?
That's such a great question. I'm not sure anybody's ever asked me that on a podcast. So first, I'll just say, as a former teacher, you have to do your lesson planning. Right. So know your audience, know what are some of the topics that they're going to be most interested in hearing. Of course, if you've written a book, then you have a topic that people are inviting you to speak about. And in the case of Saini's, they wanted me to have a breakout on my newest book, whose permission are you waiting for? There's no way you can cover all the content of a new book. And so for that presentation, I tried to think of 3 things that I wanted to make sure got across to the audience. And so we talked about things like avoiding the binary, the importance of pathway thinking, and the power of reflective tools. And so those were kind of the 3 things I wanted to make sure were takeaways. I created my slides built around those 3 points. I wanted to have some stories built in, just like we're doing here, so I could tell stories of principals and leaders I've seen who have stopped waiting for someone's permission to do the thing that they know is best for kids or for their school communities. And then, Andrew, I'll say this too. This is a practice that has helped me as somebody who has to speak a lot now. And that is, I force myself to practice. And I don't like to practice. You and I have spent our entire career speaking, talking, teaching. So there's a part of me that always has the temptation of, I know I got this. Why do I need to practice? But I will force myself to open my slides, practice my intro, practice my stories, practice my points. And it served me well a couple of different times. I'll give it a story. This last summer, I was speaking on this book for the very first time in Seattle for a breakout at the United Conference with NASSP and NAESP. And I had practiced beforehand, not really wanting to, but just because I'm just committed to the discipline. I got in there and had everything plugged in an hour in advance, had handouts, had the mic checked, 60 seconds before my presentation, my power went off on my laptop. It was a faulty cord, and I had to wing it. And I was thinking in my own head, well, I got it because I practiced. And so, so if you're somebody who likes to give presentations, or maybe you're intimidated by it, those are some of the things that have worked for me. But how about you, man? Because you do a lot of presenting too. So what are some of the tricks of the trade for Andrew?
Yeah, I like the energy, Will. I got to know the slides, right? And I was going to ask you, is it an art or a science? You know, and my answer, it's both, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of edutainment. I
Yeah.
think you got to have some fun. I think you got to smile. I engage with the audience. I want to be in the aisles, shaking hands, right? I want to be giving out stickers, right? If I get my school stuff, you know, I'm always giving out stuff. But I think it's content. I think it's energy, and then takeaways, right? I love in the book here, I'm going to ask you about this, about creating content, right? You write this on page 63. Here you are, page 63, about creating content. And we think the content is about us, right? The presenter. But you write here, content creation is less about the creators themselves and more about meeting the needs of those interested in your content. So
thanks for saying that.
Your point.
Yeah.
You know, I want to give them something that's going to help them. What's in it for me, meaning the audience, and what could I give? I say I want to fill your hearts with inspiration, but I want to fill your pocket with things that you can use, right? Make them better and help them. And like your mom said, plant that seed. So well, I'm so glad you read that quote back to me. It's funny how sometimes you need to hear yourself say things, but it reminds me of something else I like to tell, especially because I have friends who are either stepping into the same work you and I are doing, or maybe they've been in it for a while, but they're just looking to grow. I was having a conversation with a friend who was finding it uncomfortable to quote unquote market, like, you know, be out there and asking people to pay attention to their content. And I was like, okay, let me just set something straight here. Which is, this is just something I have to remember. Most people are not thinking about you. They're thinking about themselves and the challenges they have, the difficulties they're facing, just like you said, the tools that they're looking for to overcome whatever that is. Speak to that. Don't worry about like them noticing you. Speak to the solution that they're needing. And then it's a win-win because you're helping them find the thing that they're needing. And then they're recognizing that you actually have something to give. And if that's a good marriage, then that's an opportunity for you to speak or present or be in their lives or just be a friend. But yeah, I think sometimes we get so focused on the content, something we want to teach, and we forget, like you just said, it's all about what does the other person need to learn, not what do I want to teach. Well, and I think it's important that we model it, what we're doing, right? If I'm up there talking about energy and I'm standing at the podium and I'm speaking in a monotone voice, and you have to model it. I love the storytelling. One of my favorite sessions to do is the power of stories, and we go into all about storytelling, and then again modeling what it can look like. So
I'll say something else too for leaders. Now, this depends on sizes of rooms because some rooms are bigger than others. Some events are small, some are large. But if you can, be out with people before you ever start presenting and just work tables and shake hands and get to know people and introduce yourself. To me, it's like I think of it all as one big classroom. And if I have to model the things I would do if I was welcoming students into a classroom, or if I was welcoming faculty into a PD meeting, or if so the things you're modeling from the moment that you step in until it's not just the presentation, it's all that other piece too. And I know you know that, Andrew, it's the conversations afterwards. It's the getting to know people and becoming their friends. And so all of those are a part of presenting is more than just the things you say when you have that slot or that time on stage.
Yeah. And again, his latest presentation is about his latest book. Here it is, Will. Congratulations. The book is, I mean, not only very good, but it's beautiful. It feels good. I know Mrs. Casas helped design the cover, so shout out there. But tell me about your process there, Will. You've written several books. They're on his website, williamdparker.com. The link is in the show notes. But tell me about this process. How was it for you, and what is your process? Are you in that house in Oklahoma in the country writing? Are you doing it days on end? Are you doing it each morning from 6
Yeah.
to 7? What's your process?
Well, it's been different for each book. So my first and second books I wrote while still being a principal. So those books were written over a series of time. I had committed back then to at least one time a week creating enough content that it would be like a post for a blog or my podcast eventually. So every week I was creating between 800 to 1,000 words of content. And usually at the end of a year or 2 years, I would look back for themes and conversations, and I would shape that into what that next book was going to be. When I wrote my third book, I had moved into my position as a state executive director for Oklahoma's Association of Secondary School Principals and Middle Level Education Associations. And we're part of an umbrella in Oklahoma called COSA. And so I was leading 2 of those divisions. So by that time I had a little more flexibility around my writing. In that book, I was actually able to just sit down and I outlined it a year in advance of the topics I wanted to cover in advance. Those became my weekly posts of the things I was sharing with my podcast and blog audience. And then that became what I shaped into that third book. This book that you're looking at right now, it was born from after I started full-time consulting. I was getting a lot of the same questions from leaders about problem solving, not just conflict resolution, but managing complicated situations and trying to come up with the right decision. And I was having a lot of conversations with people about their own careers. And so I found myself covering a lot of the same feedback. And then I thought, oh, this is what happens whenever I find myself saying the same thing over again. That's not in one of my books. This is going to be a new book. So I sat down and wrote out all the topics I had been covering with leaders in these coaching sessions. And there were about 20 of them. And I decided to create content for all 20. So I mapped it out over a whole year for 20 weeks.
Wow.
And then for each week, I would commit to writing. So for that book, I had enough time because by this point I had moved into full-time consulting. So I would schedule a Monday block and a Wednesday block just for writing. And my goal was to finish and shape that content and then edit it the next time and then put it aside and get to the next one and put it aside. And I don't do my polished editing or proofing in that until I've gotten it all out. And once I got it all out, then I actually also hire a proofer who goes through my content too and helps me refine it and reword things as needed. And then, of course, with this book, I partnered with Connect Ed Publishing, which is Jimmy Costas, his wife Keela, who did the cover. Jeff Zuhl does all of the editing work for that company, or at least he works with my books. And so it went through another round of editing with Jeff. And so we were able to polish that work together too. So that's a quick snapshot of the process that I go through, Andrew. You've written a lot of books too. How does that compare to the way you write?
Yeah, I loved what you opened with. Every book's a little different, right? Yeah, maybe this book, your kids are little and they're sleeping, right? But then now the kids are older and you're writing it in the morning.
So true.
I again was writing as a principal too, right? You're fighting for time, stealing time. I think you said it best, just the commitment to writing, the commitment to doing it. My latest book, one of the acronyms is OADB, on a daily basis. And I think if you just stay focused, right? There's another one, follow only one course until successful. You're gonna eventually gonna finish, right? If you walk a marathon, it might take you a long time, but if you just keep putting one step in front of the other. So the great John Gordon calls them downloads, right? You shared. I'm coaching people. I'm hearing the same thing. You got to download. This could be something that helps somebody else. This could be a book. Boom.
Yeah.
And there it is. So when you capture the downloads, then it's just putting in the time. So our friend Nathan jumped in the chat here. Shout out to Nathan Pierce and Life Touch. But he wrote here, Dr. Parker, how long in those 2 weekly blocks? Because I know somebody that rhymes with Nathan Pierce, who's writing a book. How long on each day did you write? He asks.
Usually it's for me, and I'm a pretty quick writer. I would block aside an hour and a half of writing, sometimes two. It just depends. When I'm in it, it also depends on when I need to get in the flow. So I'll just say this, like Andrew, that introduction to the book where I'm talking about my mom and dad, that was actually written at a writer's retreat that I did for myself. So I have a friend who's got a farmhouse about an hour outside of Tulsa. And when I need to get completely in solitude, he gives me the keys because they use it on the weekends, and he lets me come out there and just spend a couple of days walking, thinking, writing. And so that's usually where I go first, to just get everything out and get those first thoughts going. So sometimes I need that. Sometimes hiding from the kids or just sitting in my office isn't going to get it done. And so usually I have to start someplace like that to get things going. But once I've got them going, then I try to get in that flow. And so if I can sit for a good long hour, I can usually shape a chapter, and then a couple of days later finish shaping it to get it where I want it to be.
Yeah. Friends, if you're thinking of writing a book, a little commercial here, I'm going to have another Write My Book seminar. That's going to be January 2nd. I'm going to get that information out. But Will said it. It's the getting away and making the time to do it, thinking about that writing retreat. When you go to the gym, you put your exercise clothes on.
Yeah.
When you go to church, you put your praying hat on and your church clothes. When you go to the kitchen, you're going to eat. Well, when you go to that place, then you can write. And you're right, putting yourself in that right environment.
Well, schedule the time, because
Right.
I'm not in the middle of a writing project right now. I probably should be, but after you finish a book, sometimes you just want to take a break from the pace. But when I had committed to that book, one of the mistakes that I made was I had just set a weekly goal without a specific time to write. And so, quick story, Andrew, this may be more information than you or the listeners want. But I remember one week I hadn't met my goal. So I got up on a Saturday and I was going to use that time to finish my writing goals. And my wife came downstairs and she was like, "Hey, I thought we were going to garden today. This is in the spring." And I was like, yeah, but I've got to finish my writing goals. And she was like, "Oh, well, that's disappointing because I was hoping we could do this together." And you ever had those conversations in marriage where you realize this is becoming a fight, but it doesn't, even though you're not yelling at each other? So she ended up leaving the house to go pick up gardening stuff. And I remember I had this uncomfortable feeling when she left. And the thing I said to myself was, okay, why am I writing this book? I'm writing this book because I want to help people out there who want coaching on their careers. Well, why do I know something about that? Well, because I've made a lot of transitions in mine, and now people want to know how I did that. Well, why did I make those transitions in mine? Well, because I wanted to get to a place in my career where I could do what I loved and have more time with my family to do things like gardening with my wife. and so when she came back, I looked at my calendar and I realized I'm supposed to be writing, but I've set these weekly goals, but I didn't actually set a time each week to write. So I went and opened up my calendar and put Mondays, every Monday from 10 to 11, every Wednesday from 10 to 11. So nobody could schedule a meeting with me then. So I wouldn't schedule trainings then. And if I had to travel or train, I could move it around. But then that became my goal, so I could have the freedom on Saturdays to garden with my wife. And so I'm just saying, so don't let the goal of what you're trying to do distract you from the reason you want to do it.
I love it.
Of course, being with the people you love.
Yeah, that is a great story about making the important thing
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned about transitions, right? And there is a lot of stories about, is it the right time? Is it the right fit? There is a lot of stories. Well, you had an amazing job there, the executive director of the Oklahoma Association of Secondary School Principals, OASSP.
Yeah.
I mean, wow, what a position. You were there 6 years. You
Yeah.
did amazing work. But you made a decision to leave and go be a full-time consultant and dive back into the leadership work. Tell me about that transition to leave an amazing organization there to go do something different.
I did love that work, and shout out to my friends there because I just am always grateful for the investment they made in me. So Pam Deering, who leads the Umbrella Association COSA, and Glenn Absher, who leads the Elementary Association, and Chris LeGrand, who you mentioned, who's now taken over from my former role. But when I started creating content, writing books, podcasting, all those things, Andrew, the dream began to cultivate in me of wanting to do something like that eventually full-time, but not really knowing how. And so for me, like for a lot of people, consulting became a side gig so that I would, on invitations or in opportunities, I would travel and do that work and then come back and do my full-time job. And it was during COVID, I had actually signed a contract to do a series of training in the state of Ohio. And they were going to bring me up 7 times that year to train a specific group of leaders. It was the first time I had ever done a sequence of events. And I was really excited about the opportunity, but I was going to be burning up every vacation day I had to make this thing work. My first training was in February of 2020. And you know what happened the next month? COVID hit. And when COVID hit, every contract I had stalled. And so I called the contact in Ohio and said, just call me back in 3 months and we'll decide what to do. So she did. She called me back and she said, hey, what do you think about a virtual option? Because a lot of people are doing that now. And I said, well, let's try it. So we brought the leaders in. I was so nervous that morning, Andrew, and I'd done so many trainings, but because this was new, I got up I probably woke up at like 3 a.m. I had everything going and everything ready. I had everything set up, but I was so nervous. I could not even move my neck. It was like that, you get so tight. I couldn't even sit down. I had to stand up for the presentation. I had music going. It was complete overkill, but we made it through. And we did that for the rest of that series. And at the end of the year, she called me back and she was like, well, let's do this again with another group of leaders. And COVID is over by this point, but can you just keep it virtual? Because this has been successful.
It works.
Light bulb went off. I was like, oh my gosh, I can work with people in person or virtually. So I started finding other groups that would let me meet with them. It's 7 o'clock in the morning, my time, because then I could go to the office and still not be late, or after hours. And it was in 2022 when those requests began to become generous enough that I realized I could make this transition. And so it was actually, I can still remember the moment where I decided I'm going to do this. I was leading a coaching clinic with my friend Glenn Absher with principals on how to coach teachers or even assistant superintendents on how to coach principals. There's a mix of people in the room. And we had put these leaders in circles to share some coaching back and forth. And one of the triads was missing a partner. So I jumped in to volunteer. And each of them went around the circle sharing their most current challenge. And we gave them feedback. And then it was my turn. And the whole commitment you made when you went in these triads was you had to share something real. You couldn't just make it up. And when it came to my turn, I realized, I got to be real. And the real thing I had been wrestling with that week was, should I make the decision to transition?
Oh, wow.
And so this was scary because I'm like, these are actually the people I'm training in my membership. And so I decided I'm going to embrace the vulnerability. So I just said, okay, guys, I'm going to be really vulnerable. This is what I'm wrestling with. I love this work so much, but I also know there's an opportunity I could do this work beyond just here in Oklahoma. But this is my challenge. And one of the directors on the other side of me asked a coaching question that we had taught them. And she said, Will, I want you to think about if you could remove your fear, or if money wasn't an object, where do you think you'd make the most impact? And I knew right then what I was going to do.
Wow.
I knew right then. I was like, wow, I think that I could make the most impact if I transitioned and did this beyond just Oklahoma. And so, Andrew, everybody's story is different, but for me, that transition has been something that it required a lot of courage, but it was also calculated. It wasn't something that I did without weighing the risks. You and I are both family men. We know how important it is to make sure that our livelihoods support our kids and our families. And so, I weighed all those things, but it has been incredibly rewarding, and I don't have any regrets. It's just been a wonderful experience.
Let's give him another round of applause there. You're an amazing storyteller. Good for you for being totally honest with Oklahoma leaving.
Yeah, it was scary.
That role, like, hey, I'm thinking of leaving.
Yeah.
Well, I love watching documentaries on the treadmill in the morning, right, on the elliptical, and I watched Eddie Murphy, right, and Eddie Murphy shared in that documentary, one of the best comedians of all time, that he's not most grateful for being on TV, not most grateful for his comedy. He's most grateful that, number one, he loves himself. He knew he loved himself. But number two, he found out early what it is that he wanted to do.
Mm.
So going back to your story there, going back, maybe I am a leader. Maybe I am doing, how does that person, find it, which is what it says here. Give us some tips. Give us some highlights.
Yeah. Well,
find the thing that you want.
I'll give this tip because there's lots of ways to answer that question. And obviously the book uncovers a lot of different suggestions, but I'll answer that question by just inviting people to the power of reflection. Mm-hmm. There is something so important about pausing in your work or your life to look back, to assess the lesson learned, and then to look forward to determine what are your next goals. When I was about 40 years old, Andrew, I was at a church event. It was a potluck. I still remember like getting cheese off of a tray, and this young guy was standing by me, and he was about 22, 23, and he was celebrating. He just started a business, just had his first kid, just bought his first house, all these cool things. And I was like, oh man, doesn't it feel good to reach your goals? I remember when I was your age and we were trying to do the same things. And he turned to me and he said, that's so cool. What are your goals for the next 5 or 10 years? And I remember I was a principal. I just remember looking at him and saying, honestly, right now I'm just trying to survive. I'm just trying to survive. And I know your show is all about thriving, not just surviving. And a couple of weeks later, our church had a men's event, and our pastor gave us this packet of reflections. We started the morning off together, and then he sent us out to just be alone, to think, to meditate, to pray, to read scripture, but to answer some of these reflection questions. And they were so pivotal for me. I've never forgotten them. So I'm just going to share some of these reflections with listeners. One, what are the milestones that you've experienced this past year? Think about those things you've done or experienced that are like things you don't want to forget for yourself or your family or your profession. 2, what are the most positive outcomes that you've experienced based on those experiences or those milestones? 3, what were some of the most negative challenges that you've had to go through this past year? Because those are real too. And then 4, what lessons have you learned based on those reflections? Mm-hmm. If you take just 10 minutes to write down responses to those and then the lesson, you're going to have clarity. Then look forward and ask yourself, what are the goals for my own growth this year? Personally, in my family, in my health and wellness, in my spiritual growth, and for my profession or my vocation. And then based on those lessons learned, where do you want to grow moving forward in those areas? Every year I do that reflection now, and I write my goals in the front of my journal for the whole calendar year in 10 different areas, and I won't go through all of them. And then I review them every time I start a new notebook, because I keep notes in all my work. I open up the front page and I write those goals in there so that I can be reviewing those things. So reflection, goal setting, writing them down, and then just visiting them, because I don't remember who it was that said this, but when you don't set a goal, you reach it 100% of the time. When you set goals, you're definitely going to be closer to those outcomes than you would be if you didn't set them. And so for me, reflection, goal setting, and then keeping those things front of mind are going to help you move a lot closer towards that thing that you want to experience.
Will Parker, friends. Will, if you're looking for something for 2026, there it is. Writing down those goals, goal setting, right? Shoot for the moon. Even if you miss, you're going to land among the stars.
There you go.
Yeah. Wow. Friends, his website is in the show notes there. Check him out. I really like it, Will. They can subscribe to the blog there, and they can also subscribe to Principal Matters. I love your Monday Matters too, right?
Hey, here's a shout out, Andrew.
Yeah, go for it.
So anybody out there that's looking for speakers, presenters, people to come in and work with your principals, like this guy right here, Andrew Murata. You call him first, but if you want to get both of us in the room, then you call both of us. And wouldn't it be fun to do something like this, Andrew, where
I like it.
we do a together chat? But
I like it.
but man, thank you for the work you're doing. You not only are making such a difference in the lives of principals and leaders, Andrew, but you're courageous. I have done content creation, podcasting, all that stuff for years and years. But when you told me you do a live show, I was like, no, Andrew's he's braver than I am. Way braver than I am.
This is it. The comments, the thing, it's like life. It's like life, man. You're
Yeah.
out there. Yeah.
Good job, my friend.
Well, this was a lot of fun here. Will, before we get to rapid fire, anything you wanted to share? Anything else you wanted to say?
No, I'll just wrap up with what I said earlier. Keep those two truths in mind. You're not as important as you think you are. Stay humble, because we aren't all it, even though we think our schools will never survive without us. They can. But two, you are so much more important than you think you are. Be in the moment. Be present with people. Love them where they are. And you're going to make a difference that maybe you never know, but sometimes you get the opportunity to know about it, depending on when kids or people tell you.
I love it. I love it, Will. Good stuff. Let's get to rapid fire. I got one important question before there.
Yeah.
When Tennessee plays Oklahoma in football, what are you doing? Who are you rooting for? What's happening?
Luckily, I'm not a football guy, so I don't have to choose.
Where does your heart take you, though?
I have to be transparent. So I've never had a loyalty. And Oklahoma is a big rivalry between the Cowboys, Oklahoma State University, and OU in Norman.
Oh yeah.
But my son Jack is transferring in the fall to Oklahoma State University, so I'm gonna have to be a Cowboy.
The Cowboys.
I'm gonna have to be, because your son can't go there and you not root for his team. So
you'll support the brand.
Yeah. But
awesome.
I'm more of a Thunder basketball guy. I like basketball more than football.
They champs last year, right? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Well, here we go.
Right.
These are rapid fire. These are quick questions. We got to get them in here. Last movie you saw?
Oh man, best movie of the year I saw was the Ballad of Wallace Island, and it's this obscure, funny movie about this guy this lottery winner who invites a singer to come sing on his island. It's set in Wales. My daughter went to school there, so that's why I love that movie.
I'm waiting to hear. I wanted to hear a good movie, and here we are. Okay, good. The Ballad of Wallace what?
Ballad of Wallace Island. And the main character that plays the singer, his name is Tom Basden. He actually co-wrote every song in the movie, so that when you see him singing, he's not just acting. He actually co-wrote those songs.
There's your content creation you're always talking
Yeah.
about. I love it. Last concert you went to?
Oh, my wife and I got to see James Taylor here in Tulsa. And man, you talk about like being able to sit in a room and just enjoy the history of just such beautiful music. I love his stuff.
Storyteller.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's our Saturday morning early coffee tunes on Alexa.
Yeah.
James Taylor, yeah. Last song you sang out loud in the car?
Probably Tender Tennessee Christmas, because it's that time of year, and I'm a big Amy Grant fan, and so my sister and I sing that song together every year when we're together, and I've been singing it these last couple of days.
Good for you, man. Maybe we'll get a little content creation out on social media there. One thing that Will Parker is going to make over the holidays.
I will make.
Is it a baking good? Is it a main dish? What do you got?
No, I'll do chili, because at our family, Mom got to the place where she was like, how do you feed 30 people? So we all started making our own pots of chili. Mine's always spicy. My sister's is always mild, but I'll make some spicy chili.
Okay. Cornbread with it? Bread? What do you got?
Corn chips. I like corn chips in mine. Yeah.
What level of beans are in there? Is it heavy?
Oh, I do every bean. I do pinto. I do red beans. I do black beans. So I do a mixed beans. Yeah.
Okay. A crock pot? Is it all going to crock pot?
Yeah. And sometimes we do sausage. Sometimes we do venison. So, I mean, because there's a lot of hunting out where we live.
Okay. I like it. What is going to be your favorite dish that you're going to see over the break here? What is something that I got to have that.
Oh yeah. My wife's going to make some pumpkin pie, and that's going to be, that's a Thanksgiving and a Christmas love.
I'm a big fan of Andy Andrews. I happened to watch him on show today. He had a big debate of sweet potato pie and pumpkin pie. He had a whole debate on it.
That's a
and
good
it sounds
debate.
like people from the
It's
South
a
more
good.
towards
It's a,
sweet potato.
if I'm at a restaurant and there's a choice, I actually choose sweet potato pie.
Yeah, well, that was
Because
his opinion too.
yeah, because it's almost sweet potato pie almost always is homemade, and so you're going to get a much fresher experience. Sometimes pumpkin pies, if you get them from stores, they're not going to be fresh. So you got to make them at home.
In 2025, I have fill in the blank.
Oh, in 2025, I have had the opportunity to just work with some extraordinary leaders. I can't tell you how grateful I am to get to show up in a Zoom or a room with people that care so deeply about kids.
In 2026, I will.
In 2026, I'm going to make an aspiration. I'm going to travel with my wife to beautiful places. That's one of the things that we love to do. But I if I'm not purposeful about it, it doesn't happen. So that's going to be on one of my goals for this year.
Very cool. We got the map around the world, with the pins and the dates. We have all of
Really?
that. Yeah, we're going to Belgium and we're in Europe there, the Netherlands. Yeah,
I'm so jealous. Oh, that's going to be so fun.
Yeah, April, our 25th anniversary.
You do it, man.
Yeah, mark it down.
Yeah, we did Lake Tahoe for our 25th. It was so beautiful there.
Will, you shared a lot of passions here. You shared a lot of positives here. What's a pet peeve of yours?
I don't know if this is anybody else's, but whenever I'm in a room and people drop their waters, I just I don't know why that makes me crazy. It's like, it seems like every time you're in the middle of some meeting, somebody drops their water or their phone. And I'm just like, I don't know. It's just a pet peeve. I wish it wouldn't.
The worst is when it's open and now you have a problem.
Yeah.
You're a coach of principals. You're an award-winning principal. We got some new principals that are just finishing their first semester here. What's your best new principal advice?
Spend time getting to know the people whom you're serving. So, and I mean everybody. If you're stepping into a new role, you need to know every teacher, your bus drivers, your cafeteria workers, your custodial staff, every volunteer. You just get to know people. Ride a bus every once in a while too. Just get to know people, because the more people know you, the more they trust you.
Yeah, great answer there. Friends, this is William D. Parker. Check out his website in the show notes, his books. His latest book, March of 25, has been out for the year. It's fantastic. I recommend it. Will, I'm a quote guy. I love great quotes. You've had a lot here on the show, but bring us home with a great quote.
Well, everybody loves to quote that beautiful quote from Maya Angelou, which is that people don't remember what you said as much as how you made them feel. And I just believe that's so true, because maybe you don't have the right words sometimes, or maybe you don't always know exactly what the right decision is going to be, because leadership is hard, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And so whatever that situation is that you're trying to manage, whatever that hard conversation is you're trying to have, because you're going to have them, make sure you walk away from that people know that you cared about them, that you're a champion for them, that you're treating them with fairness. Because if you're doing that, then your leadership is going to be respected. But then you're modeling for people the kind of school that you want them to experience too.
Will Parker, my friends. Will, I'm going to add to that. It's called SEED, right? We talked about seeds earlier, but we're seeing these things. We're seeing these people. It's an acronym, a significant emotional experience. You can do something to add to that person. You can promote them. You did it here on the show to me. You said some nice things about me. You said about Nathan Pierce and his work with Life Touch. It's a significant emotional experience. And we as school leaders have opportunities to do that all the time. Elevate those around us. When we are looking for them, we will see those significant emotional experiences. So add that to your division there. So
I just did.
Cool, man. All right. This was great. Will, I appreciate it. Happy holidays to you and your family.
Thank you, Andrew. Happy holidays to you too.
And one more round of applause. You're watching this on record, leave Will a positive comment in there. We'd love to go back and read those and certainly support his work. Thank you to Jimmy Casas and his team. Great book here. Will, I wish you the best in 2026 and beyond here, my friend.
Andrew, you're a champ. Thank you, friend. Let's stay in touch.
Absolutely. Stay on the line a second. We're going to sign off. Keep surviving and thriving, friends.